Welcome to day 6 of the course. It is Hawaiian Shirt Friday, which is a holiday that I observe every single week. Today we're talking about how to not suck as a wedding photographer. Number one is the experience is absolutely everything, and that goes for primarily the wedding day experience, but also the experience leading up to that, from first contact to giving them the information that they need for engagement sessions, so that they don't have too many unanswered questions, and also how to prepare a proper timeline that actually works well for you as a photographer going into the wedding day. The more fears and stress that you can alleviate from them and make it a simple, direct, and linear process, the better that they are going to feel about you. Number two is invest in the tools that you need and to rent if you can't buy. I've said this a few times in the course already, that if you are going into some of your first weddings and you don't own a lens like a 7200 that can really increase the quality of your photography in your portfolio, 100% rent that lens, because that money is going to come back to you in the quality of images that you create for your clients, as well as the future sales that come off of those amazing images. This all said, you probably don't need as many lenses as you actually think that you do. I've talked about this in a past video as well, that 35 and 85 is pretty much all I use for the wedding day, with the exception of a 7200 during the ceremony. And with those 3 lenses, I am totally happy to cover an entire wedding. Number 3 is spend lots of time understanding and reading light. When you walk into rooms, see what light is working. Like right now, this light is working because there's a big white wall, gray wall right here. And walk into rooms, and you can even pull up your phone and do a little quick selfie to see that when you rotate around the room, what the lighting is actually doing to your face. That I found incredibly helpful. And that's a great way to make sure the light is good where you're going to bring the couple before they actually arrive at that location. And it makes you look like you were 100% sure of your idea, because you actually were. All right, number 4 is learn how to handle your flash and don't overpower a scene with flash. One of my biggest pet peeves for weddings is when a photographer will bring in studio strobes and completely overpower the ambience of the wedding day. The couple has put time and effort into designing the lighting as they want it, so the more you can capture that scene, the better. What I mean by hiding your flash is to make it not look like a flash shot. I'm never using direct flash. I'm always bouncing off of somewhere and trying to just kind of naturally fill the space with light, so that you don't necessarily know that it was a flash shot, but definitely the light is good on their faces. One quick tip here, when I'm using kind of bounce flash, on camera flash, I'm always trying to hide the flash in the sense that I'm doing, I believe it's called short side lighting. I'm not super up to date with my photography terms, so I apologize if it's not, but basically what I want to do is, if you're looking at me, you're in the camera right here, you're firing your flash, I want to be bouncing my flash off of somewhere over here so that it's lighting this side of my face, so that when you're looking at me this way, this is a little bit more in shade, so that you look a little bit slimmer, a little bit more mysterious, whatever. It's just a better looking, a more professional feeling image. So that's my quick flash tip of the day. 5 is bring backups of everything. I like to bring backups of everything to the point that I have my second photographer, if it's convenient, usually driving a second car, just in case my car breaks down or they have to go out and get something, or on the way to the venue they have to do a stop or something. I just like to have that backup level as well. I also like the backup level of having a second photographer as well, that if anything were to happen to me, at least I have somebody that could kind of fill that role, at least temporarily for the day. Fingers crossed that nothing like that ever happens. Number 6 is to download and back up images the second that you get home, both on and off site. As soon as I come back home, I sit down here and I back everything up. I don't go out. I don't go watch a movie. I don't go make a snack. I just sit here and watch the cards as they go in. Maybe that's a little too much, but I like to see, I drag the specific folders that I need onto one hard drive, then I drag the specific folders that I need onto another hard drive, and then I back everything up online. So usually by 4 a.m. After the wedding, everything is 100%, both here on 2 drives and also off-site. So 7 is if the light is really bad and there's nothing that you can do about it, that the entire reception is lit by pot lights and it's a black ceiling and you can't bounce flash, is to go wider than you usually would. That saves a lot of shots. If you're at 85 and you're getting a close-up of somebody that is just really poorly lit, there's nothing you can do about. If you go a little bit wider, get a little bit more of the scene in there, it makes a little bit more sense. 8 is if the light is different colors. So say I had like incandescent lights coming from here and like a fluorescent bulb coming from here, and then daylight coming in the back, and it's just, there's really nothing that you can do in that situation, is to go black and white. It's the one way to save kind of everything possible. Also, if your images are a little bit softer, if there's a little bit too much like motion blur in there, I find that making a black and white image makes it a lot more distracting, thus making it a better photo. So always options to save images in black and white. I always do my best to also deliver that image in color as well, just because I know that if you get your wedding gallery back and you're like, oh, like cool, we love this photo, but it's in black and white and all the other photos we like are in color that we want to put in this album page, that you need to just give them as much as you can in color as well as black and white. Number 9 is, I guess this is a pretty basic photography tip. Keep your shutter speed at or above your focal length. So if you're shooting at 70 millimeters, you should be at 1/70th of a second. I don't know if cameras do that. I think it's 1/80. So I would be shooting at 70 or at an 85, which I guess is a more common focal length. I'm usually shooting at 1/100th of a second. If I have VR stabilization or something on that lens, I'm okay with going down to kind of 1/80th of a second. But anything lower than that, you start to get blur because you're photographing people doing things. At 200, I'm always trying to stay at 200, but the Nikon 7200 FL is like absolutely amazing. It's the best stabilization I've ever felt on a lens. So with that, I'm okay with going down a little bit. So on my on-camera videos, sometimes you'll see me shooting at like 1/25th a second on my 7200, and that's why, because just that VR is standout best in class. Number 10, have a backup GPS and printed addresses. Not a problem that I've discovered in my life, but my car has a GPS, so that's kind of my backup. And then I have my phone. I'm super reliant on my phone, and I have to remind myself to print out directions, or at least write down kind of the first two places that I need to go. So at least I can get to the place that I need. If I need to like stop into a gas station and be like, hey, how do I get to this place? Or I have to hop into a taxi, because I guess if it's an Uber, I'd have my phone. But if I have to like get in a cab to actually get to the place, that I have an address, and I can figure that out. Number 11 is to be upfront with your pricing. The one criticism I hear the most from just other people that kind of got scammed, quote unquote, by photographers, is that photographer was not being upfront with their pricing, that it was kind of that back end sales strategy where it's like an $80 sitting, and then that actually comes with nothing, and you have to buy every single image, and every single image is like $250. People don't really love that sales strategy unless they see it coming in and they see that, oh, these are the packages that I can buy, and they can at least pre-qualify in their mind, like, oh, are we actually going to spend this much money, or should we just go with someone else? So be upfront as much as you possibly can. I don't like back-end sales very much unless you do them in a good way. But so far with weddings, since I don't do albums, I haven't really found a great back-end sales strategy for weddings, which is totally fine by me. I'm happy to show up, make my couples extremely happy with their photography, and then head along, I guess, to the next couple. As weird as that seems, but I would rather not hit them with kind of the album sales strategy where they have to pay per page and they get like $1,000 credit, but I actually designed them a $5,000 album, and now they have to cut pages in order to get down to their 1,000, and they're not going to, so they go with 3,000. And I understand that you can make money that way. It just feels dodgy. Number 12, bring a shot list if you need one. If you're just not certain on the shots that you need, just bring a list. Nobody's going to judge you for checking off, like, got a photo of the shoes, got a photo of jewelry. Do you have the rings here? It's nice to have. And specifically at the very beginning, I would also do things like I would just have photos on my phone. I'm going to tangent on this for a second. If I ever see just like cool artwork, cool paintings, things like that, I'm usually taking a picture of it on my phone to just kind of keep it and just see if I can use that, or at least the pieces that I like, in a future image that I actually create through photography. But if your shot list is actually just photos that you want to take on your phone, or photos that you want to do something similar to, obviously, even if you try to mimic an exact shot, it's always going to be a little bit different. So I don't feel too bad about being like, okay, these are like 10 shots that I really like. Let's do this one. And you can actually show the couple of pose, things like that, which is super helpful on the day and makes them a lot more clear what you're asking for. Number 13 is ask the couple for family photo lists so you don't miss any groups. This also speeds the family photo session up significantly if you just have a list to go from. Nobody's going to step in and take control and be like, hey, can we also do this group and this group and this group? Because sometimes that happens. And if you have a list, it's like, that photo's not on the list. Let's do the list first, and then we'll have time after, or just like flag me down during cocktail hour or during the reception, and we'll get those extra photos. Number 14 is to dress well. This is something, I don't know what the deal is, but I've noticed that a lot of videographers in our city, in Toronto specifically, all show up with just like wearing like blue jeans and t-shirts. Usually it's like a company branded t-shirt. And I understand maybe the level of pride going into the day isn't as high when you're just kind of being hired to show up for the day and you're part of a team. But if you're there representing yourself, dress as good as you possibly can without making yourself uncomfortable. There are a few exceptions, but I never usually wear a jacket. Once it's summer out, I'll rarely wear a tie, just a regular dress shirt, not Hawaiian shirt Friday. Just a regular dress shirt, buttoned up. I always do long sleeve because I don't know, I feel weird wearing short sleeve. Tim does a short sleeve t-shirt, like a short sleeve dress shirt with a bow tie, which also works too. I feel like that kind of complements that the bow tie is the fanciness that maybe the sleeves lose. And then pants. And if you're a girl, you have a little bit more, I think, like lenience on this as well, that if you show up in a t-shirt that's like, and you're well put together, that's fine. For a guy, if I show up in a t-shirt, I look like a hot mess. So I'm never going to do that. I always wear the same shirts. Usually I have like 3 of them that I typically use, for reasons that I won't get into. But basically, if you don't have a flip screen on your camera and you're trying to do video, it helps to have a checker pattern shirt, in case you're in the bright sun, you can actually see the reflection properly off the dark parts of your shirt. But if you have a Nikon D850, you can just flip the screen up and solve all that. So those are my thoughts on checkered shirts. 15 is to keep your memory cards on you. If you are shooting multiple cards and you have a card wallet, don't leave that card wallet just in like a purse or something just that looks like completely stealable around the venue. Keep your memory cards on you in your pockets. I do my best to shoot larger cards and I keep them in my camera, and my main camera body, I don't put it down with the exception of dinner. I usually put it like on my lap, during the reception. Any other times it's always with me. And even like, I don't know, I'm a little too insane with this at times. Actually, no, I'm going to go into the most insane thing that I've done in the past, as far as like backups and memory cards go. So I was doing a destination wedding before Wi-Fi was very good on resorts, and you actually had to bring like a Cat 5 Ethernet cable. And it was super slow internet. We were in Mexico. So I downloaded all of my cards to like 5 USB sticks. I put them in a FedEx envelope and I mailed it back home so that I had an offsite backup, because I couldn't offsite backup there. So that even if like I was in Mexico and like, even if the worst happened, somebody broke into my room and they like broke into the safe and stole everything, that at the very least, I would still have the images on their way back home, which I thought was pretty clever and creative. And as far as like actually keeping memory cards go, if you're walking out into like a dark parking lot in the middle of the night, I usually do pop my like second card out and put it somewhere that like if I was approached in a parking lot and all my stuff was stolen, that I would at least have my backup card with me. But again, maybe I'm too crazy into that, but I think it's good. Also, this is my concert photography tip, because I used to be leaving a lot of venues at like 3 a.m. With big camera gear, and lots of people saw me using big camera gear, that I'd always have a monopod with me. So just like a big stick, and people are like, oh, he's a photographer, he has a monopod. But then it was mostly just in case something happened downtown Toronto at night, or at least they'd see me and they'd be like, like maybe it's not worth it. He looks like he has like a big stick. 16 is to be friendly to vendors, and to tag them in blog posts. What I do is I just take images of their business cards. So usually people like makeup artists will try to give me a business card, or ask me to add them on Instagram, and I either take a picture of that or I add them to Instagram. And then I just kind of quickly at the end of the day understand that if maybe there's 5 people that I added to Instagram that day, that I should screenshot that so that I remember that with the wedding. They appreciate it. And they'll also reshare it for you, and they'll use those images on their Instagram. And circular motion, feeling the flow, happy. Get everywhere early to scout the good spots with good light. This is incredibly important, I find, if you are doing like an outdoor ceremony, everything in the middle of the summer, like middle of the day, hot sun. If you can find a few good spots of shade kind of nearby, even if it's a little bit of a walk, I would much rather know that like this spot is 100% going to work, rather than trying to force some other spots that were like within viewing distance. So either drive around or go for a walk whenever you get to any location. I also do this a lot for houses, that if I show up to a house and everything's really dark, that I'll go upstairs and I'll find and make spots that kind of work, even if it's like just absolute chaos everywhere. That I'll at least like kind of make a corner. I'll be like, oh, this is where the dress will fit. This is a nice texture on the floor. This is a good shoe shot area, things like that. 18 is note where you're going to do the family photos before they ask. I still get caught on this from time to time, because it's very rare that I do a church ceremony or an offsite ceremony. But whenever I do, it's all like, sometimes it's a surprise. Like on the schedule, it'll say that we're doing photos during cocktail hour at the venue. But then sometimes people just make game day decisions. They're like, hey, let's just do family photos now. And the easiest place is usually kind of wherever they got married, just at the front of the ceremony area, as long as other vendors haven't started tearing down flowers and stuff to bring to the reception space. I find that if I can do the photos there, that's usually great. If it's a covered and soft light place, if it's indoors, it's awesome. Otherwise, I am doing my best to keep everyone's faces in the shade, which means so the hot sun, even if it's like 12 noon, the sun's still going to be a little bit of an access. So I try to get their faces in the shade as best I possibly can, line everybody up. And then the bonus to that is if you can find a background that is also in the shade and just they're being lit by the sun, maybe you lose a little bit of detail on people's heads and hair, but it's a really good feeling image if you have the background in shade and them being backlit and then their faces in the shade. Good, flattering, good photo for the mantle. Again, you don't have to strive to set up 15 lights and like all kinds of stuff to make the setting exactly perfect, but just do the best with what you have. I do find good value in keeping things environmental, that if they wanted studio portraits, they would have went to Sears. If they came to me because they want something that actually looks like their wedding, and if their wedding is hot and sunny, then their photos are going to reflect that. Number 19 is to not be the center of attention. I've seen this during the ceremony a few times with different photographers. I've watched some other behind the scenes stuff, and they're like really right in there, like right behind the couple during the ceremony. My stance on this is that the ceremony is for them. I don't want to be in between them and the guests. I specifically don't want to be in front of parents and their kids whenever they're up there getting married as well. So I'm very conscious of that. I try to kind of stay in one spot while everyone's coming down the aisle. And then I don't block like the mom from being able to see her son like across. I'm very conscious to make at least line of sight for them. So they're able to have that moment as well. I don't want to interrupt the day. And that's the only point of the day that I'm actually kind of like in the center there. Otherwise, I'm kind of on either the wings, or I'll come up the aisle usually to where the people kind of all come back to. And once it starts to get a little bit scattered, I'll kind of park myself right in that spot there. And usually at 200 millimeters, which is why I love the 7200, I can get in there, I can get the ring shot, I can get the things that I need. So don't be the center of attention. Number 20. This is specifically important to me because I'm a redhead. Bring sunscreen, and it's something that I didn't do for a very long time. Very simple, just put it in like the door of your car or whatever, and just put it on before you go outside and spend like 2 hours in the sun, because if you're shooting a lot of weddings every year, that's some pretty significant sun damage. Number 21, schedule a few minutes with the couple during golden hour or blue hour. I'm starting to prefer blue hour to golden hour. I also really love scheduling a few minutes when I'm leaving. So now I'm telling my couples that just before I leave, like I'll go up to them and be like, hey guys, like I'm just about to head out, but if you guys want to go outside and do a few nighttime photos before I leave, I'm happy to do that before we go. And usually from that like 5 minutes outside at nighttime, we come up with maybe like 2 of the best shots of the day. It's very hit or miss at nighttime, because sometimes things just like work really well and you get lots. Sometimes they don't work at all and you get 1 or 2. But 1 or 2 great photos, I think is definitely worth the 5 minutes, especially if they're like portfolio photos that they're going to print and put all over their house and they're going to be their favorites from the day. So plan some time, talk to the wedding coordinator. Don't complain when your meal gets served at the the second they start another round of speeches. This happens a lot, and I am also susceptible to this. And I know that it used to be this thing that like people would put in their contract that like vendors get served first, like serve the vendors so we can continue doing our job. I don't do that because that's just like another thing for the couple to have to deal with, and it's kind of an exception to the venue as well. And I don't like I don't know, it's maybe my efficiency that the less exceptions and like workarounds I can put into the world on a wedding day, I think is the better. And by asking for my meal first, that's not a thing that they would usually see on a piece of paper. Maybe you are training them for the future to maybe serve vendors first, but I would say that more often than not, my meal gets put down like the second, like it's almost as they're putting the meal down, the MC is on the microphone and you hear like the little tap, and then they put it down and then they start speaking. So your dinner gets cold, but whatever, you're paid to be there, so deal with it. 23, always be positive. I think that maybe this is the most important thing for me, I guess, like all day, to just be in a positive mindset, to know that you're there doing something that you love, that you're happy doing, that you're creating amazing images, will be, I don't know, everyone else is just going to like kind of, I don't know, adapt that mindset as well. If it looks like it's going to rain, I'm always the guy that's like, hey, like it says it's going to rain for like these 2 hours, but then like the 3 hours during our photo session are totally clear. And then it gets rainy again at night, I don't know, like do whatever you can to keep the bride positive. Number 24 is stay out of the way. And I do this like, again, during the ceremony, specifically to not be the center of attention. And during all other parts of the wedding day, I'm never really in the way. Like during speeches, I don't want to be blocking anyone's view. I find a way to be back as far as I can and still get the shots that I need. And to also stay out of the way of when like the bridal party is just like doing, and they're having actual like moments and they're enjoying their day. I don't want to just like walk in and be like, hey, we're going to go do some photos right now. Will you guys come with me? It's like, I want them to enjoy their day first. They're getting married because they want to get married, not because they want a photo shoot most of the time. Number 25 is to have fun. You have the most fun job in the world. You're taking pictures at people's parties. And if you are having fun all day, everyone is going to think that you're the greatest photographer even before they've seen any of the photos. And by kind of putting them in that mindset that they like you, and when you leave, that they're confident in you, they're not going to send you like follow-up emails to ask for like photos immediately to be like, oh, like I hope that like our photos are going to be good. Just by having fun and being confident in the day and just like essentially being an extra member of the bridal party for the day is the way that you're going to get lots of referrals. You're going to get better like emotional access, I'll call it, I guess, to people that they're going to be a lot more open to having you kind of in their circle, in their group. And I know that I've talked about this before in the first video of this course, that I'm very introverted, but by the end of the wedding day, usually I do feel like at least a couple of the bridal party members are my friends. So at that point, I'm comfortable getting a little bit closer and doing that type of thing. So your coverage does kind of change over the day. As long as you're having fun, have fun with the vendors, always be the person, like, don't complain about anything. That's kind of one of my things that, even if we have a wedding planner, I'm not going to complain to her about anything. I'm just going to deal with whatever's happening, maybe offer a few helpful suggestions here or there. But for the most part, I'm just there to do the best with whatever I'm given. And most of the time, that works out for the best, and people are very, very happy with their photos and very happy with me as a photographer. So thank you so much for watching today. I am Taylor Jackson, and I will see you tomorrow for day 7 of the course. Unfortunately, no Hawaiian shirt on Saturdays.